My name is Levinrad. I'm an online coach for beginners as well as help bigger companies scale. And I run a portfolio of businesses as of right now doing about 20 million a year. So for a while I was looked at as like a guru. People hate these gurus, man. And I don't know, I just didn't like the connotation of being like hated on. I didn't like that people didn't like me. I could give a shit if there's haters, but when there's gravity to it is when it matters. So I looked at it and I realized, people don't want someone teaching something they don't do. So I had made 8 million in e-com, 4 million in the agency space. I thought that was good enough to teach it. But I realized people wanted to learn from someone actively, like ripping in business, for lack of better words. So I decided instead of just training beginners, because I did for about a year straight, pretty much only did like training beginners and some events. I moved into partnering with some bigger companies as I already had two businesses behind the scenes. So I pushed 400 grand into a few different companies, and we also just did non-investment based partnerships. And now we have 9-ish companies we're partnered with that we pretty much operate. Yeah, first business I started ever, it was a e-com store selling sunglasses. And right around there, it might have literally been at the same exact time, I don't remember perfectly. I tried like a pool floaty store, e-com, I tried day trading. I learned from a guy, Ricky Gutierrez. It didn't work for me, but I think that works for people. And then I really hit when I went back into e-com. It was probably like a year after I dropped out is where it started really hitting. And I started with the AirPods and $1 million. It was intense. The biggest tip I wish I knew when I was a teen, and I'd say to anyone who's a teenager or just starting out in general, is focus is a skill bigger than any skill. Because it doesn't matter your plan, it doesn't matter anything really. If you don't have focus, you're fucked. And when I look back, and I just wish I was able to cut out the bullshit more, something I developed 18, 19, 20 years old, I started getting really big into self-isolation, into dropping your average dopamine intake per day, which looks like just like doing less fun shit so that the work becomes the fun shit. And yeah, man, just really cutting out the bullshit. And by bullshit, I mean everything other than what's going to make you rich, what's going to make you successful. And by the way, successful might not mean money, but whatever your goal is, like anything that isn't that, you should like take and like throw it the fuck away. Because it's so counterintuitive. Like think of the average Joe, they're making 6-7 grand a month, but they spend 5 of it. They just spent 60-70% of their month. They're literally in a constant whirlwind of getting nowhere. So you want to go all in on your goals. Self-isolation was the biggest thing. It's tough too for some people. I think like family is a big one. Like those, a great example, I love my aunt and I love my cousins, but my aunt and cousins are visiting. They want to do 3 days, like go on a trip. I'm like, love you guys, but no, I don't want to do that. And that's okay. One thing I think I was so bad at younger, wish I got better at, is like say no to shit. You should be saying no to probably 90% of the things that you have the yes or no choice for when it comes to outside of work. Like you just got to really get good at shutting stuff down. For me, work comes over everything. It's not a forced thing. It's a want. Like if I told any human right now, every hour you work, I'm going to give you $10,000. Are you going to do anything but that? Probably not. Some of the risks I took were, I think, playing with my future a bit. I think that the average human, or even just any human, wants a path. A path feels safe. And when you know what you're going to do, it feels very comforting. And when I got out of high school, I had fully dropped out of high school, like my path was shattered. It literally was like I'm in a dark tunnel. There's no light at the end of the tunnel like a traditional education is, because any traditional job in high school to college, you see the light at the end of the tunnel. Job, save, rich. For me, there wasn't that light, but I was in that tunnel. And it took me a year or two, but I found the light. And the biggest risk for sure for me was dropping out of high school. When I initially left school, my parents weren't like the biggest fan of it. My whole deal with my mom, I was mainly with my mom. My dad was a little out of the picture when it came to the decision. My mom said, or I told my mom rather, I went home fully, she had no idea. I skipped a final, she didn't even know. And I just told her like, hey, I'm not gonna finish school and I wanna take 6 months off and try to make 50,000 bucks. Just like, let me try. 6 months later, I made some good money. She saw my bank account, so like 30K probably. And we just literally never talked about it again, like at all. It's even weird to say, like, to this day now, it just became our norm. For me, and the biggest lesson I've learned I would want to share with people is, you just haven't seen a long enough time horizon. Like, success isn't a maybe. It is a guaranteed thing. You just have to put in the proper work and get around the proper hurdles based on whatever your goal is, how hard it is. So there is no world it doesn't work. It's just you might have given up before you saw it work.